To the book of Genesis. I have preached from here before, but I feel a tug to go here again. We're going to go to the book of Genesis chapter 32, and we're going to start at verse 24. Genesis chapter 32, verse 24. All right. Genesis chapter 32. Verse 24. When you got it, say amen. Amen. It's the first book of the Bible. So if you see in Timothy and Revelations, you're on the wrong side, go back the other way. All right. Y'all with me? Genesis chapter 32, verse 24. Y'all with me? All right. It reads on this wise. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. Come on now. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. Okay. As he wrestled with him. Verse 26. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And he said, "I will not let you go, except you bless me." Verse 27 says, and he said unto him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Now hold on to that. Put a marker there, right there, real quick. Now we're going to jump over to Mark chapter 9. Mark chapter 9. I only need 2 verses in Mark chapter 9, and then we're going to go forward. We're going to give God the glory. All right, Mark chapter 9, verse 22. When you got it, say amen. Don't forget about Genesis. Mark chapter 9, verse 22. Mark chapter 9, verse 22. Hallelujah. Thank you, Holy Ghost. I appreciate that. Mark chapter 9, verse 22. You with me? Matthew, Mark. Mark chapter 9, verse 22. It reads like this. And oftentimes it cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. 23. And Jesus said unto him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes." Yes, sir. I need verse 24. Let me read this. I know I said 2. But listen. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief." Cool. All right. Find you a neighbor and say, "Hey, neighbor. Hey, neighbor. If you believe. If you believe. The struggle is over." The struggle is over. Lord Jesus, y'all always finding the wrong neighbors that go to these Catholic churches. Find you another neighbor that look like they gonna believe what you tell them, and say, "Hey neighbor, hey neighbor, if you just believe, the struggle is over."
The struggle is over.
Come on, seal that thing with a praise.
Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now.
Now, this is going to make sense in a minute when we get through this, because a lot of times you hear that type of stuff and you just shout because the pastor told you shout. No. But I'm going to tell you something. Okay. If you believe God, Jesus just said that if you can believe that all things are possible to him that believes. Now that doesn't mean that faith is magic, that if you believe God going to give you the ability to take over the world, that you're going to take over the world. No, it don't work like that. In other words, he's saying that if you just believe him, then God, that opens up the door for God to do whatever he has to do in your life. See, sometimes God can't do nothing in our lives because we don't really believe. See, sometimes we can't get set free, we can't get delivered, we can't move on, we can't get over it, whatever the case may be, because we don't really believe that God can do just what he says. But when you step into the place that you can believe God, then God can do what he said he gonna do. And we find in this story, Mark chapter 9, it came on my heart last night. Mark chapter 9, Jesus had went to the mountaintop. And when Jesus went to the mountaintop, he had transfigured himself in front of his disciples. In other words, he had changed his appearance. Well, the Bible said that his clothes were so white that no launderer on earth would be able to make it look that clean. The Bible said that his face was shining. The Bible said that Elijah and Moses appeared right next to him, and he was with Peter, James, and John. And when they came down from the mountain, the other 9 disciples were trying to cast the devil out of a little boy. Now y'all allow me. Could you imagine 9 big, strong, grown preachers praying overnight? He trying to get a demon out of him, and the demon ain't moving. And when they came down there, everybody was standing around and saying this and saying that. And Jesus said, what is the problem here? And then they said, well, the father said, well, I brought this little boy to your disciples, and they could not get the demon out of him. And I need the demon to come out of him. And see, you got to be that type of person. Don't be afraid to come to God when you need help. See, the reason why a lot of us can't get help is because we try to hold it on the inside. We don't want to tell nobody. You want folk to think you got it all together, and you know you beat up from the feet up. And you want people to think that you live in holy, and the only thing holy is your socks and your stockings. Stop playing. It's time for you to get rid of your pride and humble yourself and say, God, I need your help because I can't do it by myself. I went to my brothers and sisters and they couldn't help me. I went to my mother and father and they couldn't help me. But I'm coming to Jesus just like I am. Weary, wounded, and sad. I need your help. Yes. So is there anybody in here today that can admit that you need God's help? Now, I didn't try the doctor. I didn't try counseling, but it just didn't give me what I needed. But I need a touch from God, because when nobody else can help you, when nothing else can satisfy you, it's Jesus that can heal you. It's Jesus that can deliver you. It's Jesus that can bring you through. You need a touch from God. It's something about his touch that he can do what that man can't do. He can do what that woman can't do. Because see, you can lay down and have sex and you can have it all night long, but the next day you're going to want some more. But when you lay with a touch from Jesus, he know how to satisfy you. God from Zion. Woo, Jesus, y'all ain't trying to help me. You don't know him. Listen, he came down, and the Father says, your disciples were not able to deliver him. We need your help, Jesus. So Jesus says, okay, how long he been going through this? And the Father says, since he was a little child. See, don't you know that the devil don't wait to come to you? He come to you when you are unable to defend yourself. Yes, right. See, the devil don't play fair. He don't really care. He gonna come to you when he can get to you. Listen. He came, and see, the devil will come, he'll start putting thoughts in your head. See, it'll be all right if you just do it one time. Yeah. It'll be all right if you don't tell nobody. It'll be all right. Ain't nobody gonna know. Go on and do this here and do that there. And you can sneak around the corner. Pastor can't see you. Yeah. Go ahead now. Pastor, how you know? Pastor human too. Pastor do wrong too. But you ain't going to stand before God and make it to heaven or hell based on my life. No. You got to get there on your own, amen? Because God's not going to say, well, what did your pastor do? God's going to make you give account for what you did. And he's going to say, right now we're not discussing the pastor. Right now we're discussing you. I got something reserved for the leader. I handle him or her if they don't live right. But as for you, we're talking about you. So, the enemy, the Father tells Jesus what's going on, and he lets him know. He says, this has been a strain for me. This has been a struggle. And now, how many of you know that there is a difference between a struggle and a strain? Okay. All right. Now I'm going to help you, because I had to talk to Brother Webster. Me and him go way back. And I had to talk to Brother Webster. And I said, Brother Webster, what's the difference between a struggle and a strain? A struggle is to move with difficulty or great effort. Mm-hmm. A strain is to be pulled or stretched in a forceful way. All right. Now, if you're struggling with something, have you ever seen somebody trying to carry a heavy box? All right. And they're all, I can't really get it. It's heavy. I'm about ready to drop it. That's how it is when we try to carry God and our sins at the same time. Watch this.
Come on.
You see this thing here? Now I can pick this up fairly easy. It ain't but 30 pounds. But I can get this to somebody else, and I bet their arms are way down.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Because it's too heavy for them. They have to struggle to lift it. You understand me? They have to struggle. But I don't have to struggle with that. You know why? Because I got more strength than that. That's not enough for me. But then there's a difference between a struggle and a strain. A strain, pull that motherfucker. A strain is when you're tugging between two sides. You understand me? And this is what a lot of us are doing right here. We straining with God. God's trying to pull us to live holy, but we're trying to pull back into the world. But God is trying to pull us on his side, and we're trying to pull God into our mess and make God be okay with the sin that we're doing. You can't make God be okay with your mess.
Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody.
It don't work like that. And when you really step into God, there is no struggle. There is no strain, because he said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me.
Hey. Hey.
When you get in God and you begin to trust God, that if he, oh my God, be ye holy, for I am holy. So if I'm in God, I gotta be holy because he is holy. And if he's holy and he's in me, I'm gonna be holy.
Yes, sir.
I don't have to struggle. I don't have to be afraid to tell people for God I live and for God I'm going to die. I don't have to worry about it, because I know that if I trust in God, he'll give me the strength. And if people walk away from you, God will replace them with people who going to love you for you.
Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody.
If people don't like you when you live holy, that means they didn't like you to begin with. Because if we really friends or we really family, you're going to love me whether I'm doing what you want me to do or whether I'm doing what makes me happy. But the problem is when people walk out your life, it's because they can no longer get from you what they've been getting. Y'all not helping me. They left you because you used to be the drinking partner and the smoking partner, but because you turned away and said, I don't want to do that no more. Now they don't want to hang with you no more.
That's it. That's it. Preach it.
But it's important for us to trust God.
Yes, right.
So Jesus asked him, he said, well, Father, how long has this been going on? The father said, well, he's been going through this for a long time. But listen to what the daddy said. The daddy said, but if, Jesus, if you can do anything, go ahead and do it, Jesus. See, he didn't really believe that Jesus could do it, because he had tried everything else and everything else didn't work.
Right.
And that's just like many of us. We go to God, we say, well, God, if you can heal me, ain't no if nothing. He can do anything.
Yeah, come on.
But fail. The question is not if he can do it. The question is if you believe. Now, the Father said, Jesus, if you can do anything. And watch what Jesus says. I love Jesus' clap back. Listen to what Jesus said. Jesus said unto him, no, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. That's what he said. So, in other words, Jesus will let him know, no, brother, I got the power to do anything. The question is, do you really believe that I can do it? Because if you believe that I can do it, I'll work it out for you. And the Bible said immediately that the father of the child cried out, and he said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief. And in other words, what he was saying to Jesus is, help me where I'm weak. Help me where I'm not strong enough. Help me where I don't have enough ability. And that's what we got to learn to do. And stop saying, Lord, give me a house and a car. The devil with a house and a car. You better learn how to ask God to help you with them things that's going to send you to hell. Ask God to help you with the stuff that's keeping you away from him. Ask him to help you with the stuff that's making him displeased with your sorry, nasty, stinking lifestyle. Ask God to help me to be holy. Ask God to help you to be righteous. Ask God to help you be delivered. Ask God to help me. God, help me that I put this down. Help me that I stop picking it up. Help me that I stop lying. Help me that I stop being jealous. Help me that I stop smoking. Help me that I stop cussing. Help me that I stop lying. Help me that I stop laying up. Help me, help me, help me. Help me, help me, help me. Help me, help me, help me. I don't believe good enough. I don't have enough faith. I don't have enough belief. But if you help me, if you help me, I believe I can do it. If you help me, I believe I can come out. If you help me, I believe I can overcome. If you help me, the struggle is over. If you help me, the strain is over. If you help me, I can do it. If you help me, I can stand. If you help me, I can make it. Help me, Jesus. Help me, Lord. Oh, God, help me. Help me, Jesus. I just need your help. I need you every day, God. I need you every hour. I can't make it on my own. Without him, I can do nothing. Without him, I will surely fail. Without him, my life is like a ship without a sail. I need Jesus. I need Jesus. I need him all in my mind. I need Jesus. I need him all in my heart. I need Jesus. I need him all on the job. I need Jesus. I need him all in the church. I need Jesus. I need him every day of my life. I need Jesus all in my marriage. I need Jesus all in my home. I need Jesus all in my children. I need Jesus. I need Jesus. I need Jesus every day of my life. Oh, help me, Jesus. I need Jesus. Somebody shout out, I need Jesus. Peter can't do this for me. Mary can't do this for me. Thomas can't do this for me. Mama can't do it. Best friends can't do it. The pastor can't do it. The pastor can't do it. I need Jesus. I need Jesus. I need him all in my body. I need him all in the hospital. I need him all in the courtroom. I need him. 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 I need him to work some stuff out in me, creating me a clean heart and renew within me the right spirit. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Oh God, I need you. The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I fear? He is the strength of my salvation. Of whom shall I be afraid? When my soul, even my enemies came upon me to eat of my flesh, they stumbled and they fail. I need Jesus. He'll never leave me, nor will he forsake me. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. I need Jesus. I need it. I need it. No weapon that's formed against you shall be able to prosper. In every tongue that rises against you, thou shalt condemn. I need Jesus. I need it. For he was wounded, he was bruised, and the chastisement of our peace is upon him. I need Jesus. I can't make it without him. I can't get delivered on my own. I can't do it without him. I need him right now. I can't wait another minute. I can't wait another hour. I can't wait another second. I need you now, God. If you don't come now, God, I might trip and fall along the way. If you don't come now, God, I might drop the ball. If you don't come now, God, I might go back. But I need you now. I need you now. I need you now. Yes. And some of us, the truth of the matter is, some of us is like Jacob. We got some secret stuff that we need God to do. You got some stuff that you ain't told nobody that you need God to do on the inside of you. And the pastor may not see it. The prophet may not see it. Oh, but God sees it. You can't fool Jesus. You can't fool God. That's why you can't come to church and lift up holy hands and go outside the building and think you can do what you want to do. Because the Bible says that man looks on the outside, but God looks on the inside. In other words, God knows what's in your heart. God knows what's in your mind. God knows what you're doing when don't nobody see you. God knows what you're doing when you're in the dark. God knows what you're talking about when you're So you can't fool him.
Yes, sir.
He not deceived. For God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. If you sow into the flesh, you shall reap corruption. But if you sow into the spirit, you will reap life everlasting. That's Galatians 6, baby. I'm just coming to let somebody know that if you would just believe him, that your struggle would be over. I'm not saying that you won't never have no problems. When I say your struggle will be over, what I'm talking about is you won't have to struggle with fighting with sin. It won't be as difficult. You won't have to go back and forth. That on Sunday you believe in God for revival, but then on Monday you can't even find your Bible. It'll be consistent. The strain. You won't be getting pulled by God and pulled by the devil at the same time and don't know which way to go. You won't have to say, Lord, it's hard trying to put up this front and struggle and carry this heavy weight on your back. Saying, well, I'm trying to live holy, but I can't quite walk. I can't quite get down this road because you're still trying to hold on to your sins. You're still trying to hold on to your old ways. But when you begin to trust God, he'll come in the fight and take the load up off your shoulders and say, you ain't got to carry the load no longer, because I didn't carry the load when I was on the cross. Because the Bible told me that he was crucified and they put him in the tomb. The Bible said he went on down to hell and had a 3-night revival. Come on, somebody. And when he got up out of the grave, the Bible said that he had all power in his hand. And when he got up and had all power, that meant he had the power to heal me. He had the power to save me. He had the power to deliver me. Whatever power you need in your life, Jesus got it. And he can do it. So if you just believe, your struggle is over. I don't know about nobody else, but is there anybody in the house that believes God on today? That you believe that he can stop the struggle, that you believe that he can stop the strain, that you believe that God can stop it. He can make the load easy for you. He said, learn of me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come on, somebody. You got to get in this word. You got to get on your knees. You got to lay on your face and cry out to him and say, Lord, I need you. You got to talk to him, because if you don't talk to him, that means by default, if you don't talk to God, you're talking to the devil. But trust and believe you talking to somebody. So if you ain't talking to God, you must be talking to the devil. But if you believe that God can do it, then your struggle will be over. If you believe that God can do it, the struggle would be over. It's only still a struggle. It's only still a strain because you don't believe. You got it. It's only still a struggle